Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof. He shoots. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Joe Rogan dropped it like a live grenade on the Joe Rogan Experience. The cameras were still rolling when he leaned back and said flat out that the public is being lied to about the Charlie Kirk assassination attempt. No hedging. No guessing. He stated it as fact. This happened just hours after Kirk was shot in the neck while speaking to thousands at Utah Valley University. The moment Rogan said it, his guest Charlie Sheen froze, and the entire studio went silent. Rogan's voice shook as he explained what almost no one wants to admit. A coordinated cover-up is underway, bigger than anything the media is willing to touch.
Of free speech and cancellation, Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night show comedian in the US, he's had a show for decades now, I think. He's been cancelled, apparently. At least his show has been paused indefinitely, and that's because of a monologue that he gave in which he tried to suggest that the shooter in the Charlie Kirk political assassination is part of the MAGA movement.
On September 10th, Charlie Kirk's assassination shocked the entire country. Less than 12 hours later, ABC abruptly pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air, claiming his comments about Kirk's death were too insensitive. The FCC chairman even flagged Kimmel's monologue and warned Disney their broadcast license could be at risk. Affiliates panicked and cut him instantly. But 36 hours later, ABC reversed everything. Kimmel was back online bragging. Rogan didn't buy a word of it. The whole sequence felt too smooth, too rehearsed, like a script. He comes back to a standing ovation.
Trump tweets about him.
And then everyone moves on, Rogan said. His tone wasn't joking, it was a warning. To the public, Kimmel's suspension looked like Disney taking a stand. Social media exploded. Advertisers froze. Even Obama chimed in, calling it a free speech crisis. But by Monday, ABC quietly announced the show would return after Kimmel spoke to Disney about his timing. Industry sources told Page 6 that Disney never intended for him to be gone long. A Disney insider told Variety the break was just a PR patch, not punishment. Bob Iger wasn't about to start a war with Trump while billion-dollar deals sat in front of regulators. While the country obsessed over Kimmel, federal agencies were grilling Disney over NFL shares and cable mergers. Networks like Nexstar and Sinclair played their own game, pulling Kimmel locally while chasing approval for their own mega deals. Who signed off and why now? Rogan pressed. The outrage, the protests, the celebrity letters, the oddly timed monologue, it all felt coordinated. A distraction running at full speed to pull attention away from Kirk's shooting and toward a much safer spectacle.
That's a threat to all of us, and we have to be clear and forthright in condemning it.
Veterans insist Kimmel's punishment was nothing but a bait-and-switch, a backstage handshake between Disney, ABC, and Washington power players. No one at the network truly believed the FCC would yank their license, but the threat gave them just enough cover to suspend Kimmel and create a headline-grabbing spectacle. And while the entire country argued about free speech and cancel culture, something else happened quietly in the background. Charlie Kirk's assassination was being sanitized, minimized, and boxed away as just another news cycle moment. The press kept the spotlight on Kimmel. He gets a slap, then a second chance, then applause. But meanwhile, details about the actual shooter, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, kept shifting. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox said Robinson came from a conservative family but had drifted into extremist corners online. Friends described him as someone who spent hours lost in dark, radicalized spaces on the internet. Investigators discovered bullet casings at the scene marked with chilling phrases like, "Hey, fascist catch," and references to the protest anthem, Bella Ciao. But Robinson himself refused to say a word. He immediately invoked the Fifth Amendment, shut down all questioning, and offered no explanation at all.
Yeah, you get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry, and you
His boyfriend
you
is a
talk to him
furry?
on Discord. I think he's a furry. I don't want to disrespect.
I don't know if that's a
He's
real
definitely
thing. Is that?
His boyfriend's definitely a guy who became a girl.
And wears furry stuff.
I think they do furry. Furry games. Excuse me.
Rogan watched the entire situation unfold in real time, and the concern in his voice was impossible to miss. In the viral podcast clip, you can actually see the moment he learns about Kirk shooting, hands covering his face, letting out a long, heavy breath. "It's so scary," he said quietly. "And it's dangerous to celebrate or encourage anything like this." But even as the Kimmel controversy dominated every headline, law enforcement was scrambling behind the scenes. 2 people were briefly detained at the event but quickly released. The FBI posted a $100,000 reward for solid information. And on social media, the suspect, Tyler Robinson, reportedly made comments hinting he was involved before turning himself in after more than a day on the run. With the confusion came an avalanche of rumors. One former tour manager claimed Disney executives had met with federal regulators just days before the tragedy, supposedly to prepare for the public uproar surrounding Kimmel's hiatus. ABC gave no comment on the allegation, but it fueled more speculation online. Pressure grew from every direction. Kirk's memorial service drew national leaders, major public figures, and a long list of political allies. The White House ordered flags lowered, while social media spiraled with arguments, theories, and heated reactions. Soon, another rumor caught fire that this incident wasn't random at all. Industry veterans and a former security advisor suggested it was meant to send a message, a warning to outspoken voices in the political arena. If someone could attack a speaker during a public event with security present, what did that mean for everyone else? Rogan didn't hide his concern. "That's what terrifies me," he warned. "Things like this can ripple outward and create more division, more anger." With Kirk gone, his movement lost one of its most vocal campus personalities. But the bigger impact wasn't political, it was fear. Comedians pulled back. Podcasters stepped around the topic. Late-night hosts kept things shallow or avoided the conversation entirely. Even Jon Stewart's comment about government-approved comedy didn't come off like a joke. It sounded more like a line being drawn.
From Charlie Kirk's spread to the workplace, people are getting fired for comments that seem to celebrate or glorify the assassination of the MAGA activist and father of 2 young children.
Kirk's widow, Erica, released an emotional video vowing that her husband's work wouldn't end with him. It would spread even further across the country. Her message sparked a wave of support, but online, the atmosphere grew tense. Reactions swung in both directions, and anyone who appeared to cross a line faced immediate consequences. Several companies took action. A contributor at a major news network was let go after making an insensitive remark. 2 airline pilots were suspended for inappropriate comments on social media. An Office Depot employee was reprimanded after refusing to print materials for a campus vigil. Even TMZ faced backlash when viewers thought they heard cheering on a live broadcast. The outlet later clarified it was staff reacting to a completely unrelated car chase, but by then, the moment had already gone viral. Every slip, every misunderstanding, every poorly timed post became ammunition in the growing online storm. Influencers grabbed screenshots, replayed clips, and insisted that the media was exploiting the chaos or mishandling the moment. Whether those claims were fair or not didn't matter. The narrative took on a life of its own. Very quickly, speaking about Kirk, too harshly, too casually, or even too lightly, became dangerous. People were losing jobs, deleting accounts, and issuing apologies just to avoid being swept up in the outrage. The fallout reached Hollywood, cable newsrooms, sports organizations, and even security agencies. No one.
Harvey, you have to make this good. I'm one that actually watched some of the stuff that you've done over the years, and it's actually good.
I agree.
For you to defend and lie about what they reacted to, you lost so much credibility with me. So much credibility with me for you to behave that way.
Every new detail that emerged only deepened the confusion. Nothing lined up neatly. Robinson was described as an isolated young man who spent too much time online, not affiliated with any political group. Yet within hours, public narratives painted him as a committed extremist. State officials said one thing, cable networks at another, and social media twisted it even further. As investigators released bits of information, the recovered shell casings, old chat logs, shocked friends who said they never saw this coming. The mystery only grew. There was no clear motive, no clear explanation, and definitely no simple storyline. It felt impossible to understand who Robinson was, or what pushed him to such violent action. Rogan's warning hit the hardest. If a public figure like Charlie Kirk, surrounded by layers of security, could still be attacked in front of cameras, what did that mean for everyone else who speaks on stage, hosts a show, or runs a podcast? The unspoken message sent a chill through the entire entertainment and political world. Major outlets published respectful tributes and reflections about Kirk's career. But critics, especially those who had clashed with him politically, accused the media of glossing over his more controversial statements. Even addressing those disagreements became dangerous. People who attempted to critique Kirk's past rhetoric risked immediate backlash. The fallout reached far beyond politics. MSNBC cut ties with contributor Matthew Dowd. The Carolina Panthers dismissed their in-house personality Charlie Rock. Airline pilots were suspended for posts deemed inappropriate. It didn't matter if comments were clumsy, misunderstood, or taken out of context. The reaction was swift and unforgiving. It sent one message loud and clear across every newsroom, studio, and corporate office. One wrong move, one wrong sentence, and your career could evaporate overnight. Asterisk.
Yesterday, this was taking place. Okay. TMZ comes out, and everybody around the world finds out when the phone alert Charlie Kirk, right? Your phone is blowing up. No matter where you are, your phone is blowing up with text messages saying Charlie Kirk is.
Kirk's tragic death instantly became the new line everyone was afraid to cross. What could be said? What couldn't? The entire country suddenly had a new rulebook, one nobody agreed on. Even the whole Kimmel suspension and return saga left people wondering if any of it was genuine or just a carefully timed distraction. One Hollywood insider told Variety that executives simply wanted the outrage to burn out fast. But the fear didn't burn out. It spread. Inside Washington, the response was immediate. The Trump administration pushed for an additional $58 million in security funding for public figures, warning that the environment had shifted. At Kirk's memorial, the White House press secretary said Kirk had helped energize Trump's voter base and played a major role in building the new MAGA coalition. It was meant as praise, but it also showed how deeply his influence had reached. Meanwhile, investigators kept moving. The FBI was still cataloging shell casings, combing through chat logs, and dissecting every second of footage from the Utah event. Utah's governor delivered a somber statement, calling social media a national sickness and criticizing tech platforms for amplifying instability. Yet even he couldn't reassure anyone, not conservatives, not liberals, not independents, that things were truly under control. Rogan's warning replayed across the internet like an alarm bell. One flashpoint leads to another, he said. And the ripple effect hasn't even begun. Then he closed with a question that left the studio silent just before they cut to commercial. If this is what happens to Charlie Kirk, what happens next?
Keep looking into it, the more they're like, this doesn't feel like a real... It feels super fabricated.
But here's the thing. Just like I was talking about when people are arguing on social media, it's all part of the plan.
Questions erupted in every newsroom. Who actually benefits from Charlie Kirk being gone? When we followed the money trail, it led straight into pressure points nobody wants to acknowledge. Kirk's biggest critics suddenly transformed into peacemakers. His platform, Turning Point, was left scrambling for stability, while political rivals and media personalities quietly slid in to claim the space he once dominated. Advertisers, always the first to run when the air turns toxic, made their moves fast. Disney, juggling billion-dollar deals and staring down FCC threats, suspended Kimmel for exactly 73 hours. Not a minute more, not a minute less. A perfect PR timeout. Meanwhile, Hollywood's loudest champions of free speech went silent. Not cautious, not respectful.
Silent.
We searched everywhere for a real reaction. Disney's board, late-night hosts, studio insiders. But all we found were sterile statements crafted by lawyers and PR teams. No outrage, no empathy, no solidarity, just polished nothingness. The kind of silence that doesn't sound like grief, it sounds like strategy.
I mean, look, Jimmy Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that. But the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral, what was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said.
Who actually gained when Kirk's voice went silent? Sure, his political enemies celebrated, but the real payoff goes far deeper. With Kirk gone, the White House and Congress suddenly had one less thorn in their side. The Trump administration immediately pushed a $58 million security package, confirmed by NBC News, framing it as a direct response to rising political violence. But the real story was happening backstage. Disney was trying to seal its Fubo acquisition and lock in a 10% stake in the NFL. Regulators were circling like sharks. Nexstar was maneuvering to absorb Tegna. Sinclair was prepping its own strategic shakeup. When deals this big are in motion, controversy becomes a liability. And in the middle of all this, an assassination and a late-night scandal land in the same week. Perfect timing to play the censorship card. Suspend Kimmel, score a few points with lawmakers, ease the regulatory heat, and then quietly reinstate him once the outrage cools. No executive loses a bonus. No deal gets derailed. The machine keeps moving. One former road manager summed it up coldly. Kirk was a liability. Kimmel was a bargaining chip. And the rest of us? Just scenery. No comment from the network. Naturally.
Set it up in a way that, like, okay, you're saying something that's actually factually inaccurate,
right,
according to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
Joe Rogan's reaction said more than any headline. The viral clip showed him mid-podcast, not just rattled, but calculating. That split-second flash of dread where he seemed to realize his own name could just as easily be the next breaking alert. It's a F*** up time. People are so divided in this country, he muttered. Then he vanished. Rogan went completely off the grid for several days, blaming it on an elk hunting trip. But the timing set off alarms across comedy circles. Was he really unplugged in the woods, or buying time? Time to talk to lawyers. Time to decide whether he should touch the story again, without painting a target on his own back. Online, the rumor mill ignited. One major podcast agent said Rogan's entire team was spooked. That internal staff debated for days whether discussing the assassination again was even worth the risk. And when Rogan finally resurfaced, he wasn't the same. The edge was gone. The swagger muted. His tone was cautious, distant, almost resigned. If the most powerful podcaster on earth, a guy who spent years mocking cancel culture, now sounds like he's watching every syllable, what does that say to everyone else holding a microphone? The ripple effects were instant. Comedians who once made careers screaming about free speech went silent. Andrew Schultz, Tim Dillon, not a single new jab about the Kimmel blackout or the Kirk shooting. For an industry built on crossing lines, the silence was eerie. One entertainment lawyer called it a shadow war on comedy. That phrase spread through LA group chats like wildfire. Two major stand-ups quietly canceled tour dates.
Harmony in the workplace, then that freedom of speech isn't necessarily protected. And so there is different standards, there's a higher bar. However, there still is the ability to, if someone is, for example, inciting violence, that is not protected speech, even for a government worker.
On one side, a conservative activist silenced on stage, his message now transformed into a rallying cry for a movement that thrives on defiance. On the other, a late-night comedian nearly erased for stepping outside the acceptable script, only to be quietly reinstated once the executives decided the optics had cooled. The Kimmel saga wasn't a punishment. It was a controlled burn, a warning shot. But Kirk's fate was the real cost. It was a stark reminder that some boundaries aren't enforced by memos or policies. They're enforced by fear, panic, and sometimes one single tragic event. The stakes couldn't be higher. Producers at TMZ were forced to apologize after viewers misread a clip as laughter at Kirk's death. Pilots, government staffers, even office employees All faced consequences for the wrong comment at the wrong time, or even the wrong background noise. We've moved past the era of free speech as we knew it. The rules have changed, and everyone is learning them the hard way. Clip 12. The official story paints Kirk's assassin as a left-leaning outlier, radicalized in the dark corners of the internet, with no clear motive beyond a swirl of memes and grievances. Investigators discovered shell casings marked with cryptic slogans and Discord chats full of irony and plausible deniability. The FBI still can't confirm whether the individual acted alone, and already, the narrative is splintering. 3 industry veterans insist too many questions remain. How did security fail? Why did it take the FBI so long to identify a suspect? Who leaked the earliest Discord screenshots to the press? The more scrutiny, the more the story drifts. Meanwhile, Kirk's family and allies staged a 60,000-seat memorial in Arizona, with politicians and celebrities jostling for camera time. Yet the most powerful figures in Hollywood and Washington remain behind legal drafted statements, carefully measuring every word. This is bigger than any single controversy. It's about controlling public debate, using tragedy as leverage, and silencing threats, left or right, through suspension, social exile, or worse. Kimmel's brief punishment was theater. Kirk's absence is a power shift. The chilling effect spreads not because anyone declares it, but because every agent, lawyer, and network executive now tells their clients, keep your mouth shut or risk everything. That's the real message behind the headlines, an open secret nobody wants to say out loud. Even Joe Rogan, the man who built his empire on saying the unsayable, now seems to be watching his own back.
If you have all the cameras all over the place, that's your business model. Show the camera footage. You have it. What were they reacting to? You have the camera footage in the back. Everywhere in that facility has cameras.
The unanswered questions just keep multiplying. Why did the industry close ranks so quickly? How did every major network, streamer, and social platform manage to sync their talking points overnight, as if reading from the same script? If a single outburst can cost you your job, your show, or your entire career, then who's actually left to tell the truth? Something in the atmosphere has changed. What used to feel like rowdy chaos now feels curated, almost staged. The audience is left trying to figure out what's real and what's just another performance. Insiders go silent. Consequences keep stacking up. And suddenly, every corner of the picture looks shadowed, every detail rehearsed. No answers from Disney's board. No explanations from Kimmel's closest allies. Even Rogan, the guy who built his brand on being unpredictable, now sounds eerily aligned with Hollywood's safest players. And that's the point. It's not just about who got shut down. It's about who is allowed to return, who benefits from the chaos, and who might be next. Because the timing of every apology, every suspension, every firing, it all hints at something deeper. A former security chief even said off the record that the official story barely scratches the surface. The real action happens in the spaces the press never sees, the green rooms, the phone calls, the quiet deals that never make it into a headline. The label hasn't said a word, of course. Silence speaks louder. So here we are. The stage set, the lines delivered, and the real script still hidden. The stakes? Higher than ever. Because if the public spectacle looks this brutal, then what's happening behind the curtain? What scandals get shut down before they erupt? What voices get muted before they speak? And which public figure is already marked as the next problem to be solved? So tell us, who do you think really pulls the strings? And what would it take for the silence to finally break? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below. Because in this new world, nothing is ever what it seems. Until next time, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember, in the game of power, the truth is always the first casualty.
Somebody, an ex-employee claims, these are claims all over that I saw on X, that the newsroom was filled with hateful, angry, progressive energy, and he said it would, without question, laugh at Charlie Kirk getting shot. Shame on them for lying.